afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the MSME Masterclass. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce a speaker whose journey reflects deep academic rigor, grassroots engagement with innovation, and a strong pulse of emerging technologies, especially those shaping India's transition to sustainable mobility. Dr. Seema Mathew is the CEO of VJTI Technology Business Incubator, hosted at Mumbai's prestigious Veer Mata Jijabai Technological Institute. In this role, she's been instrumental in mentoring and scaling innovation-driven startups across clean tech, mobility, and deep tech sectors, many of them MSMEs building in the electric vehicle space. With over 23 years of experience, Dr. Mathew's career spans 18 years in academia, 3 years in industry, and the last 2 years in the startup and incubation ecosystem. She holds a PhD in electrical engineering, an M.Tech in instrumentation control, and a B.Tech in electronics and electrical. This academic foundation enables her to connect policy and practice with engineering realities. At a time when India is sprinting towards green mobility, Dr. Mathew brings the unique perspective of someone who's seen how small businesses with the right technical and ecosystem support can lead innovation rather than just follow it. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Seema Mathew, who will help us explore how India's micro, small, and medium enterprises can participate in help and drive the country's green mobility revolution. Welcome to our MSME Masterclass, ma'am. We're thrilled to have you today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, JSW1. So I hope I'll do some, I'll help you guys out and give some insight into this very fabulous, new and emerging area.
Sure. Ma'am, the topic for today is how MSMEs can drive India's green mobility shift. And my first question to you on this topic is, what are the most overlooked supply chain gaps in India's green mobility ecosystem that small businesses could quickly fix and profitably?
Okay, see, when we talk about green mobility, almost everybody thinks about a full EV vehicle, that is a complete, like something like a Tesla is what comes into everybody's mind. But we need to be, when you look at that, it is not just the Teslas that are there, right? So we need to look at it. There are a lot of areas in the space which have not been catered at all. And where, as an MSME or an SME, there are spaces like what I would call as white spaces, okay, where even a small firm can make a big difference. Now, a simple thing like, for example, when you talk about an EV, the main heart of an EV is actually the battery or the storage, energy storage. And then you have the powertrain, and then you have the rest of the electronics and stuff around it. Now, every single part of it is very, very important. So, and then any SME can look at any of these for a simplest thing, like something like a connector. Okay. Now, most of the connectors that we require in a electric vehicle are of high voltage and high current. That effectively high power connectors are required. Now, typical connectors that we have in an electronic system, we're not talking about those. We're talking about high power, high connectors, and because that these connectors have to be put in a vehicle, the kind of vibrations and the stress that it has to go through is very different from that you find in any other kind of a system. So something as simple as that is also very much needed. So, an SME who has some expertise in that could obviously clearly go into that. Another very, very important part what we can look at is like cooling. I guess all of you, when you talk about EV, one of the things that everybody thinks of is all the bursting scooters, right? The scooters that are burning and all that. The problem here, that the main issues in all these are actually the cooling systems, right? That are required for that. So if you can tap that, so that's a major market that you need to look at. Okay, how to cool effectively, especially in the kind of conditions that a typical vehicle has to go through. So, the same vehicle will be going, you'll be driving the same vehicle in Rajasthan Thar Desert as well as someplace like Ladakh, right? So it has to go through all kinds of temperature variations, all kinds of terrain. So the cooling systems that are required for that is a very important part which people are not looking into much. even now. I mean, there are a few startups and few enterprises which are looking it, but there is a major need for better cooling systems. Now, another thing is, of course, sensors. Okay, so we require lots of different types of sensors, whether it is temperature, current, even pressure sensors, for actually the battery. Then you need to know the state of health of the battery. So all those sensors for all of those, that's another untapped market. Okay, another untapped area where small players can make a big difference. Okay, so these are some of the things that comes immediately into my mind. Another thing is, of course, the power electronics. That is the controllers, the power electronic part. Whether it's the inverters, the DC to DC converters, all these. So, so effectively, you don't have to be a Tesla. You could also start off very small and, and capture that market. And then the BMS, which is the battery management system. So that is another part that we can really look into. And as a small business. So some of you would have heard about EV Doctor, for example. No? So they have actually, what have they done? They've just actually taken all the data that has come IoT based. They've taken those data and they're actually processing it and telling you what is the state of your vehicle. I mean, effectively a battery and all the other things in it. So that is what they're trying to do. And this is very, even if you're a small player, with a limited capex, you still can enter this market. So, as a matter of fact, I have a couple of EV, you was telling, like I'm part of an incubator, and we have around 10 electric vehicle EV startups. So one of the startups is basically into charge controllers. So what does he do? He actually makes the controllers, the DC to DC converters. That and the inverters which drive the motor. So this is all that it does, right? So it doesn't require a large amount of money or anything to start off. So effectively, what I would like to say is there's a lot of areas in the supply chain. So this is like simple things from a connector, and of course you can obviously go up to the vehicle. I mean, no one's stopping you, but you could always start from there.
Ma'am, the next question that comes to our mind as a follow-up is which component categories or subsystems in EVs are still fragmented and open for disruption by new or agile players?
So the biggest one, I think, is energy storage, right? So when we're talking about energy storage, I'm basically talking about battery and cell management. Cell manufacturing. Right? Even now, as of now, India doesn't have, almost all the cells are coming from outside, basically China, right? So now if we want to do something there, with all the Atmanirbhar Bharat and all that coming in play, so we will need to actually look at how to make better battery cells. Okay, and the biggest disruptors that will come will be in new chemistries that can be thought of. Okay, viable chemistries, because there are a lot of them in the lab level. I mean, if you look at any chemical thing, you will get so many research articles on it different, but there are majority of them are only viable up to that lab. To bring it to actual production, it's a different story completely. It's completely different. I mean, so. That is something that we have to seriously, that will be a huge disruptor if people can come up with something like that. Basically in electrode manufacturing, electrolyte and the cell itself. The other part that will come up is, of course, things like lighter and motors. Okay. One of our startups, for example, Taurus Motors, Taurus Robotics, actually, they started off not with anything to do with EV, they started off as a robotic company. But now what they're doing is they're into making axial motors. Okay, so these are specific, very special motors which is very, with very high torque and are not, and I don't want to go into the actual technical part of it, but it's called an axial motor. And they're very useful, especially in two-wheelers. Okay, so similar kind of, and the advantage here in these kind of motors, again, motor, when we talk about, a very important part is the magnet that goes there. The magnets, almost all of them come again from China. So if we can find better ways of doing something there, that would be a huge disruptor. So of my using, these are the main things. Obviously, then there is the typical ones, which are like, better algorithms for, motor control and BMS systems. Then another very important disruptor, which will have to come in play before long, is recycling. Okay, the end of life of a battery or any of the energies, how are we going to go ahead with it? So if people can find good, good technology which will actually be viable, that would be a huge disruptor. Okay, one more thing that I do feel is, there is a huge thing as to whether EV will be the next, whether EV is just a short gap arrangement till we come to the hydrogen, right? Hydrogen engines. Now, I cannot really sing both sides. I am like, either way it would go. We will know about it, like say 30 years from now, how we are looking at it. But if something like that does come, because hydrogen is something, again, one of the major issues with EV is, of course, the range anxiety. Correct? That is the range, because especially in these long haul trucks and things like that, so that becomes a huge problem. So in those kind of commercial vehicles, hydrogen engine would be the best bet. So if people can come up with new ways for there, so obviously it is not exactly EV, but it is going to be like, there is this whole debate as to EV might be just a stopgap arrangement, and or the fact that EV might be more towards a city and, for urban transport more. And when you want long haul transports, it would go into something like hydrogen, especially green hydrogen. So that is something that I feel, those disruptors. So anything to do with hydrogen, new ways of actually storing and transmission, that would be a huge disruptor too.
Now, ma'am, for our attendees' sake, can you share a lesser known example of a business that successfully transitioned from traditional auto manufacturing into a green mobility value chain, and what gave them that edge?
Okay. So offhand, I don't know how many of you know, there is a company known as Cheddar Electricals, okay, in Shirwal. So they started off as, they make ignition plugs for normal vehicles. Two-wheelers actually. So obviously, because they make ignition, spark plugs, what they're talking about, what we call spark plugs, right? So that they make for two-wheelers, and they are right now in Pune. So they, from 2018 now, they have actually transitioned slowly. They're still doing their core business, which is their ignition, the spark plugs. But now they're also going to other things, like, for example, they're going to battery management, because see, they already have the expertise, right? So it made it easier for them. So another thing that they have really gone in is they introduced battery swapping technologies. That's another thing that will be, especially for urban transport. Battery swapping will be something that, we should look into. So they have transitioned, they're still transitioning. It's not that they have completely removed their core business. It's still there, but they're transitioning and they're actually effectively ready for the next big deal. So they're one of the, and they've been in this business for 50 years, remember. And it's only in 2018 that they have done it. They have got their own, BMS and IoT, which they have developed themselves. And they're doing quite well.
Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, my next question to you is, what's a common misconception that prevents a lot of companies, small-time manufacturers, from entering into the green mobility sector?
The biggest thing is that, you need a huge amount of capex. That is the biggest fear feeling people have. Because like I said, when you talk about EV, you're thinking of Tesla. Okay. But that is not required at all. You don't have to do the whole ordeal, right? You still can be part of the EV story. You can, for example, start off very small. Like, there are companies, for example, who already have basically, I have a company who is into known as Magnus Motors, Mag 9 actually they call themselves. They are into electric bicycles. So they're actually 3 students from VJTI. Okay, they passed out from VJTI, and in college they build their own go-kart. The go-karts that you have in all this electric, it's an electric go-kart. So from there, they I think started off very small. Okay, with a few lakhs, that's all they had. Then right now they have around 5 rigs around the country, and now they have actually transitioned into electric bicycles. So you don't require a lot of money to start off. Let's be very clear, they are not manufacturing themselves. Okay, I mean, that is the part of it. I mean, is their design, is their thing, but they get it manufactured outside by companies which are doing, for example, bicycles. The bicycle companies who are manufacturing bicycles, they're doing it with them only, with a little bit of variations. They can easily retool it. The basic structure is anyway the same. The design is different. So you don't need a huge outlay. Other thing is, like I said about the other company that I have, that is the Doper Energy, who again are into charge controllers. They don't have a huge amount. I mean, they have not put in, I think they're all together, their capex must be around 60 lakhs or so only right now. Okay, not more than that. But they are actually doing quite well because, these are very design heavy, obviously it's a very technical part, and I think we have enough people in India who can do that part. It's not that it's not possible for us. So for them, it's mainly, with a laptop, they started off and then they went ahead with that. Another one is EV Doctor, like I was talking about. It's just a AI-enabled project. That's all it was, a laptop and a sensor project. But now they are like, I think they are supplying to all the big people. I'm talking about big OEMs. So it's a wrong thing that, you need a lot of money to start a business, something to do something in EV. That's not true. Obviously, money will not, it's obviously good to have more, but yeah.
Ma'am, my next question to you is on how can players with strong machining, casting or fabrication infrastructure repurpose their facilities to be future ready in this transition?
Actually, you need to understand, when you talk about EV, the majority part is still the same of the vehicle as it is. Right? Most of it is really same. Like if you look at a vehicle, whether you're talking about the total chassis or all those things, they're the same, right? So obviously there are some differences because that has to do with the design of it. Like I was talking about the Mag 9, the bicycle I'm talking about. They initially started with retrofitting a normal bicycle, okay, with a motor. But they clearly realized that it wouldn't work. So they had to change a little bit things like, because they want to have it more load-bearing capacity. They wanted 150 kg of load-bearing capacity. Their idea was that it should reach the last mile delivery people. So the variations that they did was the size of the spoke, the size of the, the tire and stuff like that. So in those things, you really don't require much. You don't need to completely scrap your already available unit machining. You will need some extra fittings, and you might have to do a little bit of a rework, but you can easily do it. It's not a major problem. Actually, if you look at it, Maruti and Honda are already doing that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Ma'am, moving on, what green mobility trends are emerging in non-metro or industrial belts that don't make it to the headlines but offer strong business potential?
Okay. Biggest, of course, is cargo. Okay, cargo, like, where in tier 2 and tier 3, where you require, logistical support. Okay, if you can have a green EV, for example, Magenta Mobility is doing something similar to that. So that would be one of the best ways of going ahead with it. And clearly, if you look at it, right now, the tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India are the biggest consumers right now of two-wheelers and three-wheelers, right? EV. So that is a big area. So effectively, you need all kinds of other support structure. If people are buying it, you need to have all the support structure. For example, you need the chargers, right? So those are areas where people are not immediately seeing. One area that I feel that people cannot immediately see is certifications. Okay, certifications because you need now, currently there are places like ARI which will do the certifications for you. But if we can have more areas where you have a certifying workshops in EV, because these are very specific things that you need to take care of. So that would be something that which could be provided by an SME as a service provider. Another thing is training. Okay, it's not that all your workshop anybody can start doing it. You will need basic specific training for it. So again, this could be done by SMEs who are like into that and who provide trainings for all these kind of things. So that is something which you can't immediately see. You feel that it seems somewhere you don't realize those things, but those things will come up because you're talking about high power requirements, right? It's not like in a typical a mechanic, he is used to the 12 volt. It's not that he may not have anything, because he still has a 12 volt battery which is used for the electronics that are there. But now you are looking at a very high voltage battery and with high power. So then you require specific knowledge about how to deal with all that. So I think there will be a lot of companies which will spring up just for training these people who are required for servicing. Then, like I said, charging networks, that will come up very big. Again, recycling will come up. It will have to come, because without that it will not. And again, most of the recycling will not mostly happen in the metros. It will eventually go to, because the way we are, unfortunately, we'll push it to the rural areas. Okay, I mean, it's not a good thing to say, but that's how we see it, right? So that is something that can come up, but how to do that? Then I think I kind of covered what comes in my mind right now here.
Ma'am, moving on, where do you see the highest ROI for businesses making small-scale smart investments in EV-related R&D or prototyping?
Battery chemistry, biggest. So, because I think biggest will be in ROI, will be there. If you can crack that part, I think you have cracked the whole EV problem. Majority of it, because that is where the maximum money is. I mean, where your maximum, when you buy a EV, your maximum thing goes for the battery, right? And you need to find ways how to do that. I mean, we need better battery chemistry than what we already have. Okay, with more sustainable, chemicals. Like, instead of going for right now, we've come to lithium ion and lithium ion phosphate and all that, but there might be better ways of doing it. So that will be the one place where the maximum effect difference will come up. And if we can crack that, and if we can do a good, again, now, like I said, if you look at any research publications in this domain, you will see so many of them. But the problem is they are not viable. To bringing it in the lab, it works, but not necessarily in actual, in in reality, right? So when it comes to the road, things are not working that way. We're still stuck with the earlier chemistries, tried and tested ones. So we will need to find something there. Then clearly we can make things more modular current day right now, where should be more like so that anybody can change. Right now we have so many different type of chargers, the connectors that are there. So now all those clearly government is coming to make sure that there is only one type and all that, but we'll have to, that is one place that will come up. So anybody who has a better understanding of these things, they will have a better goal.
Got it. Now, ma'am, which EV supporting services like battery analytics, lightweight packaging, or fleet diagnostics are ripe for innovation by smaller firms?
All of them are actually. All the ones that you said. That is like battery analytics, obviously. I mean, we need to take the max, because these batteries are so costly. So we need to extract the maximum possible from them, make it as efficient as possible. Fleet diagnostics again, yes, because when you talk about there are a lot. We need to keep looking at better algorithms which can make things work better. Again, the we should also be able to see when we talk about all this battery analytics. Again, the same thing I would like to say is the chemistry part. We have to have it more. See, why are we going for EV? We're going mainly to make it more sustainable, right? So we need to do something in the main source that is going to have the problem that will come up as far as sustainability is concerned, which is in the batteries and the magnets. Okay, so we need to do something there, make it more sustainable. So that is something, and if the small firms, can come up with some good methods of doing it, whether it is giving a better end of life for the energy storage device, that is always welcome. So you can prolong it as long as possible, our batteries. So those are different ways we could look at it.
Now, ma'am, one question that our attendees often ask us, what are the 3 most underestimated opportunities in India's green logistics or shared mobility ecosystem?
Okay, underestimated opportunities. I think go to the rural market and get the EV scooter and taxis and stuff like that. That would be something. Again, in the rural market, now when we're looking at rural market, we do say all of this, but we do need a lot of electric. See, right now what happens is, whether it is a tiller or all that tractors, they're all working on IC engine. If we need better EV alternatives for these kind of things, especially in the agri-tech area. One of our startups, Sandbird, is into power tillers, EV power tillers. So it's a very small thing. It's not like, so even if your acreage is very small, you can still use this tiller. Okay. And it's fully EV. So we need such solutions more. So these are opportunities, especially in when you look at tier 2 or the rural market, we need to look at that. Now, another thing is, of course, rural market, when we are looking at another option is the battery swapping. We have to see how can we make it better, because having a battery, like for example, our fleets, right? An auto rickshaw should have better ways of doing, how instead of always buying it and he wants to immediately use it, right? He doesn't have the time to charge it for so long. So there should be some form of battery swapping areas. Obviously, another very important part is how do I look at, for example, the grid? I don't know if you know something known as vehicle to grid technology. Now, in a typical, like for example, I take my EV vehicle to my office. The whole day I'm at the office. I'm not using my vehicle. That time my battery is underutilized. I mean, So is there any way I can store the energy and I can give it back to the grid? So, or I can use at that time, it's sunny, I can use it, or whichever way, So there can be, the country has so much of batteries which are already available for the grid, for grid storage. What are the options there? So which means we will need very high, we will need algorithms which can take care of those kind of things. Okay. So when to perfectly price it. So when should the grid give to my battery, and when I can give it back battery from the grid? So these are times, because see, one of the problems with renewables, now I'm going a little away, but this is something that is kind of together in a way. It looks like I'm digressing, but biggest issue with renewables is clearly storage, right? And once we have a large EV fleet, we already have storage available with us, mobile storage effectively, correct? It's just a matter of how do we tap it further. This requires, proper, how are we going to do the transactions, the power transactions in those cases? So those kind of algorithms, if we can come up, which are like win-win for both sides, that would be something that, even a small firm or a couple of undergraduate students can work on. Okay, so yeah.
Ma'am, I just received a question from one of the attendees. He's asking, could you explain how a business could enter the battery recycling or second life ecosystem with minimal upfront investment?
Second life, okay. So see, when you talk about second life, first thing is, one of the simplest ways would be, try to be the aggregator first, okay? It's easy. I mean, you can go to the garages and you should be the one who is getting the old batteries. Okay. These old batteries, what you can do, you don't need much of an equipment. What you need is a simple method of finding what is the state of health of this battery, which is not very costly, to have those instruments. They are like around 3 lakhs or so. Okay. I'm not talking about very high resolution things. I mean, basic understanding, that's enough. So with that, around max you will have around 4 lakhs or so. With that much of capex, you can understand what is the value, how much is the state of health of that battery. And after that, what you can do is you could sell it back. If for example, your state of health is like, you realize it's very low, then you could give it to the scrap dealers or whatever, how to recycle it. Before that, you can try to make sure that you can send it to a rural area where you require battery. The battery still has life in it. So this would be the first way you would start off. Once you have enough and you're managing to reach a particular level, then you can start thinking of going and being that recycler, and to get back the whole thing. So that, well, actually, as a matter of fact, there is a particular, I'm not getting the person's name, one person who's actually looking into this, though I'm not really getting that one. Yeah, it is Resell Connect, I think it's the name is. So they are doing something like this. So it's not going to be costly for you. 3-4 lakhs is not a lot of amount really. So yeah.
Okay, ma'am, moving on to our next question. In what ways can local suppliers collaborate across clusters to bid jointly for larger green mobility contracts or tenders?
Okay, the easiest method, because we already have clusters of, for example, in Coimbatore we have a cluster, we have got clusters in Bangalore. So one of the issues I understand, which is unfortunate, is that most of you would have known about the GEM, that is the government depot marketplace. So, and a lot of other tenders also, they require a specific, you need to have so much of, past history and all that. So if people, if for example, you tie up with other kind of people who can come together and see how can we do it, and together bid for a tender as a consortium, instead of just looking at individually. That will be easier, and you have a better chance of it. Again, you get this kind of a thing is anywhere required, because how else would you really manage to reach a wider audience as soon as possible without a consortium or without some kind of under cooperative movement, not necessarily cooperative movement per se, but some kind of an understanding with each other. Without that, it's literally very difficult.
Ma'am, my last question to you is, what red flags should a founder watch before shifting capacity from a legacy auto business into EVs?
Okay. Sorry, what red flags? Okay. The biggest one, please don't stay with one OEM. Okay. Because I think that is something that we all learned when we suddenly had to be with China, and then China got, we will need to find different OEMs. We need to find, make sure that no matter what, we get our raw material continuously. So that would be something that we have to really look at. And the very important thing is, of course, the certification. See, now this particular industry being so heavy in sense as far as because and unfortunately it's got a very bad name. Okay, because due to all the publicity, actually bad publicity I would call it, with all the bursting of you see all these reels of Ola scooters burning and all that, but the fact of the matter in the end is this, a lot of it could also be because you're not being very careful with all the certifications. And again, we are still to do, the government itself has to come up with better certification methods, which also means that we also need to look at more areas. This is still too nascent, as a matter of fact. The certifications are still taking time to be in place. And we also do not have enough certification centers. Okay, so we need more places where we can be, where certifications can take place. So if it's not like suddenly you think, okay, chalo koi nahi, I can just fit a motor dal diya or battery dal diya or chalu kiya, aisa nahi ho. You can't do that. Okay, so you will need to take care of all those, because remember, this is high power thing that is coming, which is like effectively dangerous. So you need to be very need to take the certification thing in very seriously. Another very big issue could be overestimating how much EV has penetrated. A lot of people think that abhi ekdam se ho gaya. Nahi hua hai utna. Okay, we still are a long way to go. Yes, we have made a huge difference. Compared to what we were like, even just before COVID, comparatively, we reached quite a long way. But we are nowhere near where we should be. That is one thing. Then, of course, the one that I was talking about, the hydrogen part, we still are not clear about how things will pan out in the long term. So my thing is, even if you put everything in the EV, try have another thing after some time, not immediately, because there's a good chance that things could go the hydrogen way. There is still a good chance. So we need to this wouldn't be a major problem for somebody like who are in the charge controllers or in the motor part, especially. I still think hydrogen is not going to come much in, say, for example, a two-wheeler sector or a three-wheeler sector. Chances are it'll still be EV only for a longer term. So you need to keep yourself, see where you are, keep a lookout on the longer term, where you are as and when you go. Right now, what we are seeing may not be the scenario 5 years from now. So keep that in mind as we go ahead. That's something that, effectively do not put all your eggs in one basket. That's one. Unfortunately, I'm being very,
That's good food for thought, ma'am. Ma'am, while I was talking to you, there was another question that I came up with. And I would like to ask you that if you would know of any initiatives that the government has, taken for SMEs or MSMEs or other smaller companies to enter the green mobility space, if you could share that with our attendees.
Mm-hmm. So, actually, right now, the policies that are coming up is one is that there's a lot of custom duty waivers are there for EV goods. Then they have also put in a 4,000 crore outlay for two-wheeler and heavy EV adoption that they've put in. And the FAME 3 will be, that is the latest one that will come up, will be focusing more on the charging and networking instead, because in the end of the day, that is something that will be very important, right? So like talking about the charging, there was this another one that I was that I found very interesting, was a power bank for EVs. Okay, so quite light. Again, this is a startup. Similar to our normal power bank. So the way it works is, that power bank is quite light. Obviously, it's another battery only, but it's a very lighter version. And what we can do is, this power bank can be taken along with you when you're going for a longer trip. And the good part is this power bank, whenever your power bill is less, you can, charge this and keep. And so that when you are on the go, and you can easily charge your other battery with it. So that was something very interesting that I had seen one of these days. A startup had actually pitched to us about that. Very interesting. So something like that. So FAME 3 will be looking more on that, the charging and network, because unfortunately, our grid is still quite old. Okay. So it's not that you can just suddenly put everything online and we need to really work on that part too. So that, of course, is the government's initiative. It's not just up to us, the government. And I think the government is serious about it now, because they also want to go this way, right? So they are seriously looking into it. And hopefully, we will be seeing some good progress there. Yeah.
With that, we've come to the end of today's episode, Dr. Seema. Thank you so much for sharing these detailed insights with our attendees on such an important, critical topic. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
For our attendees who are online, if you'd like to view the current episode, or if you've missed any part of the previously shot episodes, please go on YouTube, type JSW1 MSME, and you will find all the episodes uploaded there. Thank you once again, ma'am. Bye-bye.